I want you to take a second and think about the worst boss you have ever had. Maybe it was a shift manager at a fast food job who wrote you up for being 30 seconds late. Maybe it was a middle manager at your corporate job who took credit for all of your work. Whatever bad boss story you have, I can almost guarantee it is not as bad as the boss I had on my seventh and final combat deployment. My name does not matter, and for operational security reasons, I will never share the exact country we were deployed to. But for context, I am 50 years old, and at the time this story took place, I had 28 years of active duty service in the United States Army Military Intelligence Corps. I did not get my commission out of college. I enlisted when I was 22, right after I finished my associate's degree, because I wanted to serve and I had always been good at solving puzzles, connecting dots that no one else could see. I started as an entry-level E1 CGI analyst, sorting through hours of intercepted radio communications 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. I worked my way up through the enlisted ranks, did my first deployment to Kosovo in 2001, then deployed to Afghanistan in 2002, Iraq in 2005, two more tours in Afghanistan, a rotation in the Horn of Africa, and this final deployment to the CEDSOM area of responsibility in 2021. I went to Warrant Officer Candidate School when I was 36 because I did not want to move into a command position where I would be stuck doing paperwork all day. I wanted to stay an analyst. I wanted to do the actual work that kept the soldiers in our division safe. By the time this story takes place, I was a Chief Warrant Officer 4, the second highest warrant officer rank, and I was the senior fusion analyst for the entire division's intelligence section. My job was simple on paper, but incredibly high stakes. I took all of the data we got from signals intelligence, human intelligence sources, drone footage, satellite imagery, and ground patrol reports, and I put it all together to confirm if a potential target was actually an enemy position or if it was civilians or a friendly patrol. In 28 years of service, I had never once had a target package I signed off on result in civilian casualties or friendly fire. My track record was perfect. And everyone from the division command sergeant major all the way up to the general in charge of our division trusted my judgment explicitly. Our section ran like a well-oiled machine. We had 18 analysts total, most of them enlisted with at least 4 years of experience, two other junior warrant officers, and for the 3 years leading up to the change in command, our section head was a major who had spent 15 years in intelligence himself. He trusted us to do our jobs. He fought to get us the equipment we needed, and he never once pressured us to sign off on a target we were not 100% certain about. We had one of the lowest civilian casualty rates of any intelligence section in the entire theater, and we had prevented more than 30 potential friendly fire incidents in the first 9 months of that deployment alone. I thought things would stay that way until the end of our rotation 6 months down the line. I was already planning my retirement. I had 2 more years until I hit 30 years of service and could retire at 100% of my base pay. I had a house picked out back in Central Texas. I was going to teach intelligence analysis at the local community college for veterans. Everything was perfectly on track. All of that changed on a Tuesday morning when we got the official email announcing our new section head. Our major was getting reassigned back to stateside for a well-earned promotion, which we were all happy for him, but the name that was listed as his replacement made every single person in the section stop what they were doing and look at each other like we had just read a death sentence. Second Lieutenant Matthew Hale, 22 years old, graduated West Point 2 months prior, 0 deployments, 0 experience working in intelligence. If you are not familiar with how the Army works, a second lieutenant, what we universally call a butter bar, is the lowest possible officer rank. Most of them are fresh out of college. They have spent 4 years learning theory in a classroom, and they have 0 real-world experience leading soldiers or doing the actual work their section is responsible for. The standard, unwritten rule across every single unit in the Army is that a new butter bar is supposed to listen to their senior NCOs and their warrant officers for at least their first 6 months in the unit, because we are the people who've been doing the job for decades. Most good lieutenants understand this. Most of them are humble. They ask questions, they learn, they grow into good officers. Matthew Hale was not a good lieutenant. We found out 3 days before he showed up from one of the admin staff at headquarters exactly how he got assigned to our section, one of the most high-stress, high-stakes positions in the entire division. His father was a 3-star general on the Army staff at the Pentagon. This deployment was supposed to be nothing more than a box to check on Matthew's resume so he could get promoted quickly and eventually follow his father's career path. He did not ask to be assigned to an infantry platoon where he would have to learn how to lead soldiers on patrol. He specifically requested an assignment to intelligence because he thought it would look good on his resume, and he thought it was, quote, less physical work. He showed up to our SCI, our sensitive compartmented information facility, for his first day at 9:17 a.m., 17 minutes late to his own first day of work. He was wearing his brand new OCP uniform that had never been washed. His boots had 0 scuffs on them, and he was carrying a brand new leather notebook with his name engraved on the cover that I would later find out he never once wrote in. He called all of us into a mandatory meeting as soon as he walked in the door, before he even had a chance to get his security badge activated. I will never forget the first thing he said to all of us, standing at the front of the briefing room with his chest puffed out like he had already won a war. I know all of you have been doing things the old, slow way for a long time, but I went to West Point. I know how to optimize processes. Over the next 90 days, we are going to cut our section's man-hour requirements by 40%, and we are going to increase our target output by 60%. I am going to make this the most efficient intelligence section in the entire SANSCOM command. The entire room was dead silent. My first thought was that this kid had no idea what our job actually was. We were not processing shipping labels. We were not making spreadsheets for a sales team. The work we did decided if people lived or died. A 1% margin of error did not mean a missed sales target. It meant dead civilians, dead American soldiers, a massive international incident that could get our entire country dragged into a war we did not want. I raised my hand as the most senior person in the room, and I tried to explain that to him politely, the way you are supposed to talk to a new officer so you do not bruise his ego. Sir, with all respect, our primary priority is accuracy, not speed. If we rush through target packages to hit a productivity metric, we are going to make mistakes that cost lives. He looked at me like I had just grown a second head. He glanced down at the name tape on my uniform, then at my rank insignia, Chief Warrant Officer. Right, I am sure you are good at doing things the old way, but things are changing. I spent my senior year capstone project studying artificial intelligence for defense applications. We do not need 10 people spending 8 hours verifying every single target. The AI can do that work in 12 seconds. Over the next 2 weeks, we are going to be rolling out a new commercial AI target analysis tool, and we will be reassigning most of the junior analysts to other sections to cut down on our personnel costs for this command. If any of you have a problem with that, you can find a new assignment. That was the end of the first meeting. All of us walked out of that briefing room knowing that it was only a matter of time before something went very, very wrong. For the first 2 weeks of his command, he spent almost all of his time on video calls with vendors selling him the AI tool instead of talking to us, instead of learning how our existing process worked. I tried multiple times to schedule time with him to walk him through our current target verification process, to show him examples of past cases where initial drone footage looked like an enemy convoy, but after we cross-referenced with HMINT sources and SciGINT, we found out it was a family moving their belongings. every single time. He turned down my meeting request and told me to focus on preparing the team for the AI transition. Two weeks to the day after he started, he announced that the AI tool was fully implemented and effective immediately. All target packages would first be processed by the AI, and analysts would only be asked to review packages the AI flagged as high priority. He also announced that 3 of our most junior analysts were being reassigned, and he was putting in a request for headquarters to eliminate 3 more positions, including my position, because the AI could perform the work of a senior fusion analyst with 99% accuracy. I knew at that point that I was not going to change his mind. I sent a formal written memorandum through the chain of command to the division general, warning him that removing experienced analysts and relying solely on AI for target verification would lead to catastrophic loss of life. I got a response back 24 hours later, not from the general, but from Hale. He had intercepted the memo, and he was furious. He called me into his office, closed the door, and slammed the printed copy of my memo down on his desk. Do you think you know better than me? Do you think you know better than the West Point Research Department? You are trying to make me look bad to command because you are scared of losing your job to a computer. This is insubordination. I could have you court-martialed for this. I stayed calm. I had been in the Army long enough to know when you were arguing with someone who was not going to listen to reason no matter what you said. Sir, I am not trying to make you look bad. I am trying to prevent people from dying. That AI tool was trained on publicly available drone footage from 2018. It has never been tested in this operating environment. It does not know the difference between a water truck and a fuel truck used by insurgents. It does not know our local human sources. It does not have the context of 28 years of experience doing this job in this part of the world. He did not let me finish. He leaned forward across his desk and he smiled like he had just won an argument. I do not need your context. Tomorrow, we have our first high priority target package processed by the AI. The AI has identified a convoy of 6 trucks moving through the western sector, carrying heavy weapons for an insurgent cell. The air wing has already been put on standby to strike the convoy as soon as we get a signed target package. You are going to sign off on that package, or you are relieved of duty. He pulled the target package out of his desk folder and slid it across the desk to me. I picked it up and I started reviewing it right there in his office. It took me less than 3 minutes to see all of the mistakes the AI had made. The AI had identified the markings on the side of the trucks as insurgent symbols. I recognized those markings immediately. They were the official logo of the International Red Cross medical and aid convoy that we had been notified would be moving through that exact sector on that exact road. At that exact time, 3 days prior, the AI had misidentified the pallets of medical supplies on the flatbed trucks as rocket artillery. The AI had misidentified the satellite phone signals coming from the convoy as insurgent communications, when those were the registered satellite phones for the aid convoy leader that we had on file in our system. I looked up at Hale and I told him exactly what I had found. I told him that if we called in that airstrike, we would kill 15 to 20 civilian aid workers. We would violate every rule of engagement we had, and it would create an international incident so bad that we would likely be forced to pull all of our forces out of the country. He did not believe me. That is what you want me to think, so you can prove the AI is bad and you can keep your job. I already cross-referenced this with the AI report. It is 98.2% confidence that this is an enemy convoy. You will sign this or you are fired. I looked him dead in the eye and I slid the target package back across the desk to him. I will not sign that package. If you want to approve that strike, you sign it with your own name. I will not put my name on something that I know will kill innocent people. He picked up his pen, signed the target package right in front of me, and then he handed me my official relief of duty paperwork. Effective immediately, you are relieved of your post. You are restricted to base. You will turn in all of your security badges, and you will be on the first flight back to Fort Hood Day. After tomorrow, where you will be reassigned to a desk job processing training records until your retirement. Get out of my office. I did not argue. I knew there was no point. I turned in my badges. I packed up my belongings from my desk. I told the other two warrant officers on the team that they needed to document every single action Hale took from that point forward. That the strike on that convoy was going to be a disaster, and then I went back to my billeting to wait for my flight out. I did not even try to stop the strike. I knew that Hale had already sent the approved target package to the air wing. Any attempt I made to contact command would be labeled as insubordination from a disgruntled employee who had just been fired. I had already done everything I could to prevent this. The rest was on him. I made a full backup of all of my emails, all of my warning memos, and all of my notes about the convoy, and I sent an encrypted copy to the Inspector General's official secure inbox before I went to sleep that night. My flight was scheduled to leave at 6 a.m. on Friday. I was woken up at 1:47 a.m. by the sound of my personal cell phone ringing. I did not recognize the number, but I answered it. It was Hale. He was screaming. He was crying. I could hear other people yelling in the background at headquarters, and I could hear the distinct beep of the emergency alert system that only activated when there was a major critical incident. CW4, please, I need your help. I messed up. I messed up so bad. The convoy we struck. It was the Red Cross convoy, just like you said. 17 aid workers are dead, 8 more are injured. The general is here. The UN is demanding answers. They are talking about court-martial. They are talking about prison time. Please come back to the SCI. Help me fix this. I will give you your job back. I will tear up your reassignment paperwork. I will do anything you want. I held the phone away from my ear for a second, and I thought about all of the times I had tried to warn him. I thought about the 17 people who were dead because he was too arrogant to listen to someone who had been doing the job longer than he had been alive. I thought about all of the meetings he declined, all of the advice he ignored, all the times he called me old and outdated for not wanting to replace our entire team with a piece of software he saw presented at a college conference. I spoke slowly so he would understand every single word I was saying. Lieutenant, 3 days ago, I offered to help you. I offered to walk you through the target verification process. I told you exactly what would happen if you approved that strike. You told me I was old-fashioned. You told me the AI was better than me. You fired me, and you told me I would be processing training records for the rest of my career. You do not get to call me now to clean up your mess. You signed that target package with your own name. You made the decision. You get to live with the consequences. I already sent a full copy of all of my warnings, all of my emails, and all of the memo I sent to command to the Inspector General's office 2 hours after you fired me. They have all the proof. They need to see exactly who is responsible for this. I am getting on my flight back to the States in 4 hours. I am going to retire in 2 years. I am going to move to my house in Texas, and I am never going to have to think about you ever again. Good luck explaining to the court-martial and to the families of the 17 people you killed why you thought an AI tool was more reliable than 28 years of experience. Do not call me again. I hung up the phone and I blocked his number. The final cost of his mistake, which was released to the public 18 months later as part of the Inspector General's final report, was $124 million. That number includes condolence payments to the families of the dead aid workers, reparations paid to the host country, the cost of the full year-long investigation, the cost of reassigning the entire division command staff, and the cost of developing new, properly tested AI tools for intelligence analysis that would not make the same mistakes. Hale was stripped of his commission, he was given a dishonorable discharge, and he spent 3 years in military prison for dereliction of duty. His father, the three-star general, was forced to retire early with a reduction in rank to colonel and lost all of his command privileges. I got a formal apology from the new division general a month after I got back to stateside. They offered me a promotion. They offered me a position leading the team developing the new AI analysis tools. I turned it down. I did my last 2 years of service processing training records, just like Hale said I would. I retired at 30 years of service with full benefits. I moved to my house in Texas, and now I spend my days teaching young veterans how to become intelligence analysts. The first lesson I teach every single one of my students is this: technology is a tool. It will never, ever be better than the judgment of someone who has spent decades doing the job. And if you ever have a new boss who is too arrogant to listen to your warnings, document everything, because eventually their arrogance will catch up to them. And you do not want to go down for their mistakes.